here with Farmington Knights versus Jackson Indians for volleyball matchup. Devin Huff here speaking, and we're ready for a great game tonight. Farmington starting with the ball. Sarah Bauer back to serve. Sarah Bauer with the serve, goes over the net. Back to Farmington, rolls it over, it's blocked. Bauer with the set to Busenbark, it's over. Pauls gets it back up, and they can't get that one over. Wait, no, Farmington got it over, and they scored. They scored that one with the foot. That's legal as long as you plant your foot.
I need you to tell what the score is.
Bauer with the serve again, it's over. Jackson gets it over up to Embry. Woolridge sets it to Miller, Miller gets it over. Can't get it back over the net. Number 20, Mackenzie Stoner back to serve. Digged up by Paul, or Embry, and Miller spikes it over. And it's now 2-1 to Farmington. Busenbark's back to serve for Farmington. It's over the net by Busenbark. Jackson cannot get it over in the net. It's now Farmington 3, Jackson 1. Busenbark back to serve again. She gets it over the net, and Jackson hits it over. Busenbark can't quite dig that one up. It's now 3-2, Farmington. And number 17, Olivia Ward, back to serve for Jackson. She gets that one over, digged up by Busenbark. Miller hits it over. Blair sets it up to Bauer, and Bauer sets it up to Pauls. And then Jackson scored. I guess they called it a lift. Ward back to serve again. Over the net. And it's out of bounds. Now 4-3 Farmington. Jenna Wynn back to serve for Farmington. Hits it over the net. And it was out of bounds. It's now 4-4. Number 2, Lainey Brassard to serve for Jackson. Digged up by Gilmore. Miller digs it up, set by Bauer, and hit over the net by Pauls. Jackson got that one onto the It's now 4-5. Jackson's winning. They took the lead. Laney Broussard back to serve again. Over the net. Set by Bauer to Bishop. And Farmington scores. It's now 5-5. Miller's back to serve for Farmington. Digged up by Jackson's, and they hit it over. Duesenbark didn't react fast enough. It's now 5-6, Jackson. Gilmore back to serve for Jackson. Farmington scores. It's now 6-6. Pauls hits it over the net, and Jackson gets it back over, but it's in, and they scored 7-6. Jackson. Number 11, Emily Scott back to serve for Jackson. Digged up by Pauls. Set by Miller to Win. Win hits it over. And blocked by Harris. And it's now 7-7. Farmington back to serve. Embry. Jackson put it back over the net, and it went out of bounds off of Miller. It's now 7-8 Jackson. Number 16, Haley Quatman to serve for Jackson. Hits it over the net, digged up by Duesenbark, set by Miller, and hit over by Harris. And Farmington scores. It's now 8-8. Bowers back to serve for Farmington. Digged up by Jackson and hit back over the net. Bauer can't quite get to that one. It's now 8-9 Jackson. Number 20, Mackenzie Stoner to serve for Jackson. Gets it over the net, digged up by Duesenbark, set by Bauer, and hit over by Miller. Tipped over by Duesenbark after Jackson hit it back, and Farmington scored. It's now 9-9, and Duesenbark serving for Farmington. It's over. Jackson hits it back, Duesenbark can't get to it. That was a really good placement on that one. Now 10-9 Jackson, and number 17 Olivia Ward is back to serve. It's over the net, digged up by Embry, but Bauer can't quite get to it. It went to the net, and Jackson scored again. It's 11-9. 17 Ward serves, digged up by Pauls. Miller gets it over the net. Tried to block that one, but it went out of bounds. It's now 12-9 Jackson. Ward's back to serve again. Hit over by Ward, digged up by Embry. Set by Bauer and over by Duesenbark. Number 4, Pauls, set and tipped over by Woolridge. Jackson hits it back over, digged up by Miller, Bauer set it, and Miller hit it back over. Jackson gets it over again. Busenbark set by Bauer. Woolridge hits it over, hits Jackson on it, goes out of bounds. It's now 10-12 Jackson. And Wynn is back to serve. She hits it over the net, digged up by Jackson, and it's out of bounds. Farmington's point. It's now 11-12. Jackson's up. Wynn is to serve again. She hits it over the net. It's blocked by Miller after Jackson tries to get it back over. It's now 12-12. Farmington's tied it. And Wynn is to serve again. Hit over by Wynn, and Jackson spikes it over. It's now 12-13. Jackson's leading. Number 2, Lainey Broussard is to serve for Jackson. Broussard hits it over, but it's out of bounds. Farmington's point, 13-13. Miller's back to serve for Farmington. She hits it over to Wilson. Broussard sets it, and Shin gets it over. Miller sets to Harris, and Harris gets it over. They hit it over. Farmington tried to block it, but they couldn't quite get it. They hit it 4 times. It's now 13-14. Jackson's winning. Wilson's back to serve. Hits it over. Pauls. Miller. Pauls hits it over. Farmington scores. It's now 14-14. Pauls is back to serve for Farmington. Hits it over to Wilson. Broussard sets it, and it's blocked by Busenbark. It's now 15-14. Farmington's taking the lead. Pauls to serve. Hits it over. Broussard hits it over, and Farmington can't quite get to it. It's now 15-15. I don't think Farmington expected Broussard to hit that one over. I think they expected her to set it, so they weren't quite prepared. It's now number 13, Autumn Gregg, to serve for Jackson. Hit over, digged up by Busenbark, set by Miller, and Busenbark hits it over to Wilson. Broussard sets it, and Farmington's got it again. Hit over by Busenbark. Broussard sets it, and it's to Pauls. And Harris hits it over. Farmington's point. Embry's back to serve for Farmington, and it's now 16-15. Hit over to Wilson. Jackson gets it over, but Farmington can't quite get to it. It's now 16-16. Number 10, Kaya Fellows, to serve for Jackson. She hits it over to Busenbark. Busenbark digs it up, set by Embry to Woolridge, and Farmington tries to block it. When Jackson hits it back over, I can't quite get to it. Number 10, Kaya Fellows again to serve. She gets it over to Busenbark, set up by Miller, and Harris hits it over. Farmington's point, It's now 17-17. Bowers back to serve for Farmington. Bauer hits it over. Farmington blocks it, and they score. It's 18-17 Farmington. Bauer back to serve for Farmington again. Hits it over, digged up, set, and hit over. Pauls digs it up. Bauer sets it, and Miller hits it over. Jackson can't quite get to it after it deflects off of one of their girls' arms. It's now 19-17. Farmington's up. Jackson's taking a timeout. Pretty close one here tonight. It's 19-17 in the first period. Farmington's having a pretty good season so far. I spoke with Busenbach earlier today, and she said that Jackson's a pretty good team, but they're looking for the win. Okay, Farmington's ready to go. Bowers back to serve. Jackson's back out here. Bauer serves. Digged up by Jackson, and Jackson spikes it over. Pauls can't quite get it to it, and it's now 19-18. Farmington's up. Number 20, Mackenzie Stoner to serve for Jackson. She hits it over. Busenbach digs it up. Hit back to Pauls by Bauer, and it's out of bounds. It's now 19-19. Mackenzie Stoner to serve for Jackson again. She hits it over. Busenbach gets to it. Bauer saves her, and Embry hits it over. Jackson hits it out of bounds. It's now 20-19, and Busenbach's back to serve for Farmington. She gets it over. Jackson digs it up, sets it, and they hit it over. Busenbach digs it up. Pauls hits it into the net. It's now 20-20. Number 35, Caitlin Miller to serve for Jackson. Hits it to Embry, set up by Bauer, and Woolridge tries to hit it over. They block it. Miller gets it back over. And Jackson hits it over, and Farmington blocks it. They get it back over the net. Set up to Miller, and Miller hits it over. Farmington tried to block that one. They couldn't quite get there. And Jackson scored. It's now 21-20 Jackson. Caitlin Miller to serve again. She hits it over, and it's out of bounds. Jenna Wynn back to serve for Farmington. She gets it over, and Farmington tries to block, but they can't quite get to it. And it's 21-22. Jackson's up. Number 2, Lainey Broussard to serve for Jackson. She gets it over, digged up by Pauls. Set back to Miller by Bauer, and Miller hits it over. Jackson gets it back over the net. Busenbar kicks it over. Farmington tried to block it. Busenbar digged it up, but it went out of bounds. It's now 23-21. Jackson leads. Farmington calls a timeout. It's pretty close first period here. Farmington's back out on the court. Jackson is what we're waiting on here. Okay, Jackson's ready. And number 2, Lainey Broussard to serve for Jackson. She hits it over the net, digged up by Pauls. Set by Bauer, and Bishop tries to hit it over. Jackson blocks it, and Jackson scores. It's now 24-21 Jackson. They only need one more to take this set. Lainey Broussard to serve again. She gets it over, digged up by Pauls, set by Bauer, and Miller hits it over. Jackson gets it back. Miller hits it over again and blocked off of Jackson's arm, and it's now 22-24. Jackson still leads. Miller's back to serve for Farmington. It's over, and Jackson returns it. Farmington scores because there's a lift. Jackson calls a timeout. It's 23-24. This has been a really competitive first set here. Farmington student section has been pretty silent tonight. Farmington's ready to go. Jackson's falling behind, and Miller's back to serve for Farmington. Miller gets it over the net. It's returned by Jackson. Miller digs it up, but Harris can't quite get to it. And that's the end of the first period. Jackson takes it 25-23. We're going into period 2 here. Farmington's back out on the court. Jackson's following behind them. Farmington student section still silent so far. Jackson starts with the ball here. Number 20, Mackenzie Stoner, is to serve for Jackson. Farmington seems to be ready for this. And Stoner with the serve. It's over the net. Digged up by Busenbark. Set by Bauer. And Woolridge hits it over. There's a lift. So Jackson gets a point. Farmington girls weren't so sure about that lift. They thought their hand was closed. Stoner to serve. Over and out of bounds. It's now 1-1. Busenbark to serve for Farmington. Hits it over. Digged up and over the net again. And Woolridge blocks. Farmington scores. It's now 2-1. Busenbark to serve again. It's hit over by Jackson, and nobody gets to it. That's 2-2 now. Number 17, Olivia Ward, to serve for Jackson. It's hit over the net, digged up by Busenbark, set by Bauer, and Pauls tips it over. Jackson can't get it. It's now 3-2, Farmington leads. Jenna Wynn serving for Farmington. She serves it over the net to Wilson. And number 11 hits it over. Digged up by Busenbark, but it went backwards, and Miller can't quite get to it. It's now 3-3. Jackson serves. It hits the net, but it goes over anyway, and they score. It's 4-3 Jackson. Number 2, Lainey Broussard serves. Digged up by Pauls. Hit back by Bishop and over by Miller. Miller and Bishop block it, but Jackson keeps it alive, hits it back over, and tipped over by Pauls, but it goes out of bounds. Lainey Broussard to serve again. It's 5-3 Jackson. Hit up by Pauls, set by Bauer to Miller. Miller hits it over. And Jackson's going to return this one. Busenbark digs it up. Set up by Bauer to Miller. Miller hits it over again. That was a strike. Straight to the floor. It's 4-5 Jackson. And Miller's back to serve for Farmington. Miller gets it over the net. Jackson returns it. Pauls returns it again. And Jackson returns it back. Miller digs it up. Harris hits it down. And it's 5-5, tied up again. Miller's back to serve for Farmington. Miller hits it over the net. Jackson returns it. Busenbark digs it up. Miller sets it, and Pauls hits it. Jackson returns it over the net, but it was in barely, and Jackson scores. It's 5-6, Jackson. Wilson's back to serve. Hits it over. Wynn digs it up. Miller sets it to Harris, and Jackson blocks it, and it's 7-5 Jackson. Wilson serves it, digged up by Busenbark, into the net, and it's 8-5 Jackson. Wilson back to serve again, hits it over. Busenbark digs it up, set up by Miller, and Pauls hits it into the net. It's now 9-5. Jackson's up. And Wilson's back to serve. Gets it over the net. Busenbark digs it over the net, and Jackson returns it. Busenbark sets it up to Miller. Miller sets it up to Pauls. Pauls tips it over the net, and Farmington scores. It's now 9-6. Jackson's winning. Pauls is back to serve for Farmington. Serves it over the net to Wilson. Broussard hits it to Stoner, sorry. And Farmington can't quite get to it. Or no, Farmington does get to it. And it's 7-9. Pauls hits it over. Wynn digs it up, set by Miller, and Bishop hits it over. Jackson returns it, and it's spiked by Jordan Harris, and it's now 8-9. Jackson's still winning. Pauls is back to serve. Wilson digs it up. Returned by Jackson, and Busenbark hits it back over. Jackson returns it. Miller to Busenbark. Busenbark scores. It's now 9-9. Farmington's tied it. Pauls is back to serve again. Hit to Wilson. Broussard sets it up, and Jackson returns it. Wynn cannot quite dig that one up. It's now 10-9 Jackson. Emily Scott hits it over. Digged up by Wynn. Set to Busenbark. Jackson blocks it, and they score. It's 11-9 Jackson. Emily Scott to serve for Jackson again. It's hit over to Wynn. Wynn digs it up. Miller digs it up, and then Busenbark hits it into the net. It's now 12-9 Jackson. And Emily Scott to serve again. Emily Scott hits it over. Set up by Miller and hit over by Harris. Broussard sets it, and Jackson returns, and they score. It's now 13-9 Jackson. Farmington calls a timeout.
St. Francis Medical Center is dedicated to providing progressive, innovative care and compassion for all whom they serve. Their easily accessible clinic provides many benefits to their patients, including X-ray and laboratory services. Additional providers when crop care is required and convenient parking. Then St. Francis Medical Center. And Proctor Construction has been building beautiful, durable, cost-effective buildings and spaces for the Farmington area for 90 years. Their talented, dedicated staff builds trust and lasting relationships to make every Rock Miller experience a big one. Rock Miller Construction's commitment to client service has kept them on the cutting edge of construction.
Farmington looks like they're ready to go, and Jackson follows right behind them. Emily Scott's still serving for Jackson. She hits it over to win. Set up by Miller, hit over by Harris. Jackson returns it. It's digged up by Wynn and hit over by Busenbark. Busenbark scores. It's now 13-10. Jackson leads. Embry's back to serve for Farmington. Embry hits it into the net. It's 14-10. Jackson leads. Number 10, Kaya Fellows to serve for Jackson. She hits it over, digged up by Busenbark, set to Harris, and Harris hits it over to Jackson, spikes it, and it's 15-10 Jackson. Kaya Fellows to serve for Jackson again. Digged up by Embry, set by Pauls, and I guess they called a lift. It's now 16-10 Jackson. Jackson hits it over, and Miller returns it. Hit to Miller, set by Harris, and over by Busenbark. Jackson can't quite hold on to that, and it is 11-16 Jackson. Bowers back to serve for Farmington. Hit over by Bauer. Bauer digs it up. Woolridge hits it over, but I'm not quite sure what happened there, but Jackson scored. It's now 17-11. Number 20, Mackenzie Stoner back to serve for Jackson. It's over the net, digged up by Pauls, set by Bauer, and over by Busenbark. Busenbark digs that one up, and she hits it over too. Digged up by Bauer that time. Set to Miller. Miller scores. 17-12. Jackson leads. Busenbark's back to serve for Farmington. She gets it over. She digs it up. And Jackson scores. It's 18-12. Number 33, Caitlin Scott back to serve for Jackson. Embry digs it up, set up by Bauer, and Pauls hits it over. Jackson returns the ball. Bauer sets it up, and Miller hits it over. Jackson returns it again. Bauer to Busenbark. Busenbark hits it over. Jackson returns it. Set up by Bauer. Woolridge tips it over. Jackson hits it over again. Blocked by Woolridge into Jackson's face. And Orridge hits it over again. Jackson returns it, and they score. It's 19-12 Jackson.
Midwest Health Network and devoted to independent primary care physician specialists and surgeons. Their commitment is to their community. Quality healthcare in Deloge, Dr. Lawrence Lemon staff. Midwest Convenient Care, Dr. J. Paul Tyndall. TOSI, Midwest Imaging. Midwest Health Group, Farmington Ear, Nose, and Throat. Midwest Vein and Spine. And Midwest Orthopedic Group. First State Community Bank is here to help you meet your financial goals. Mobile banking app offers a convenient way to check account balances, make deposits, transfer, pay bills, or even pay up rent immediately with their person-to-person feature. First State Community Bank serving Farmington.
Jackson only needs 6 more to win this set.
At First State Community Bank.
Number 33, Caitlin Scott, back to serve for Jackson. Hits it over, Embry digs it up. Warridge sets to Pauls, and Pauls gets it over. Jackson's gonna tip this one over. Embry digs it up, set up to Miller, and Miller spikes it right on their face and scores. Wins back to serve for Farmington. It's now 19-13. Jackson leads. Wynn gets it over. It's returned by Jackson, blocked, and Farmington scores. It's 19-14. Wynn's back to serve again. Hits it over the net. Jackson returns it. Bauer digs it up, set by Pauls, and Bishop hits it over. She hits it out of bounds. It's now 20-14 Jackson. Lainey Broussard to serve. Hits it into the net. It's 20-15 now. Miller's back to serve for Farmington. Hits it over the net. Jackson's going to return this one, and Wynn cannot quite get to that one. It's 21-15 Jackson. Number 12, Wilson, back to serve for Jackson. Hits it over, digged up by Wynn. Set to Busenbark, and Busenbark hits it over. Jackson returns it. Set to Harris. Harris hits it over. Jackson returns this one. And Miller digs it over the net. Farmington's point. It's now 21-16. Jackson leads. Paul's back to serve for Farmington. She hits it over the net. Returned by Jackson. Farmington digs it up. Paul's hits it over. Farmington scores. It's now 21-17. Jackson leads. Timeout by Jackson. Farmington's ready to go. Paul's back to serve. Paul serves it over the net. Jackson digs it up into the pole, and Farmington scores. It's 21-18 Jackson. Paul's back to serve again. It's over the net to Wilson. Jackson returns it. Set by Bishop, set by Miller, and Bishop spikes it. Farmington scores. It is now 21-19. Jackson leads. Farmington's looking to make a comeback here. Hit over by Pauls. Jackson returns it. Wynn digs it up. Oh, Pauls cannot quite get to it. It's now 22-19 Jackson. Number 13, Autumn Grag to serve for Jackson. It's over the net to Wynn. Set by Miller. Busenbark hits it over, and Jackson blocks it out of bounds. Farmington scores. It's 22-20. Jackson leads. Embry's back to serve for Farmington. Embry gets it over the net. Jackson returns it, and Pauls cannot quite get to that one. It's 23-20. Jackson leads. Number 10, Kaya Fellows to serve for Jackson. Over the net, digged up by Busenbark, set by Miller, and Woolridge sends it back over. And Farmington scores. It's 23-21. Jackson leads. It's pretty close here in the second set. Farmington has to win this set to stay in the game. Bowers back to serve for Farmington. Bauer hits it over the net. Jackson returns it, and it's out of bounds. It's now 23-22. Jackson leads by 1. Bowers back to serve. Jackson calls a timeout. Farmington student section has been silent the whole game. Farmington's back out on the court, ready to go. Jackson follows behind, and Bowers back to serve for Farmington. Bowers serves it over. Jackson returns it. Pauls digs it up, set up by Embry. Hit over by Bauer. Jackson returns again. Digged up by Embry. Set to Miller. Miller hits it over. And Jackson returns it. Jackson can't quite get it back over the net, and it's now 23-23. Farmington's tied the game. They've came back, and Bauer's back to serve for Farmington. Bauer hits it over. Jackson returns it. Miller digs it up. Set up by Bauer to Busenbark. Busenbark hits it over. Jackson's returning this one. They score. It's 24-23 Jackson. Jackson serves it back over. Pauls digs it up. Set by Bauer. Miller hits it over. Jackson returns the ball. Set by Bauer. Over by Miller. And Jackson can't get it. It's 24-24. Busenbark's back to serve for Farmington. Busenbark serves. It's over. And Jackson returns it. Set by Bauer. Set by Pauls. And Miller hits it over. Jackson can't get to it, and Farmington has taken the lead. It's 25-24 Farmington. Busenbark serves. It's over the net. Set up by Bauer to Miller. Oh, Jackson blocked the ball. And it's now 25-25. Number 35, Caitlin Miller to serve for Jackson. She gets it over, digged up by Embry. Pauls hits it over. Digged up by Bauer, and Woolridge gets it back over the net. Busenbark hits it over. But they can't quite. They did something wrong, so it's 26-25. Jackson leads. Caitlin Miller to serve again. Caitlin Miller hits it over. Busenbark digs it up. Set by Bauer. Miller spikes it over. Jackson's going to return this one. Busenbark can't quite set it up. And it's 27-25. Jackson wins. Jackson's won the game by 2 sets. And that's it. Thank you.